Hello everyone and welcome to CableCast. My name is Caleb Ryor and today we have Edu Cunha returning after a long year online tournaments, as well as a new guest to the cast, Abdul BigSlim Barrie. How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Very happy to be back. Let's hope that we have some fun again.
Yes, so important thing, last time Edu was here, of course, was I had my big clickbait episode with Colin, VGC being canceled. Of course, now VGC tournaments are still, not going on, with Worlds having been canceled last year, canceled again this year. Confirmed 2022, they're still doing, London. Actually, so admittedly, I had some dumb audio mishaps, and this is our second time recording this intro bit, but I remembered a question I had for James and Rosemary last episode that I actually give you guys. What video game do you think we will be playing for Worlds 2022? Because last episode was all about the big announcements and whatnot, and they said it's still happening in London, so I guess we'll start with Edu. Do you think we'll still be playing Sword and Shield summer 2022?
I honestly think we're going to be playing the new Gen 4 remix. It feels, although it is a bit weird because it's not like technically fully part of or built made by Game Freak, it still is directed by Junichi Masuda, and it still feels like what they want to do is just like a main series game, and I feel like that would be the game we'd be playing on. I could see the Sword and Shield theory working out as well. Where, I know people are saying that maybe the remakes aren't really shipped for competitive, and they still keep the competitive on Sword and Shield. I mean, I can see the possibility. I believe that the remakes are going to be where we'll be playing. Honestly.
Yeah, totally valid. And you, Slim?
For me, I lean more towards I can see it more Sword and Shield than anything. It's not any specific reason they're not trying to make it, of course, Brilliant Diamond and Pearl and all that, the mainstream thing, but it just feels too good to be true that we played this whole game this whole time, the gimmick never got off on the world stage, and we just move on. It just feels too good to be true. So I just it's hard to believe.
Yeah, I think a good point was that they still have all this merchandise they did make for Worlds 2020 that I think if you just slap, a 2 on it, they want to ship all that stuff still, right?
Yeah. There's just too much money they'll have to lose when they don't put enough money into the game. So it's no, this is part of the budget. We need to get this off to recoup and then plan for the next one. So just from a business standpoint, it just seems too good to be true that I'd be oh yeah, dump all that. That's hard to do.
On the flip side, is interesting. I was listening to another podcast. It's Japan Time. It's Shofu and Roger Base's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
They were talking about the new games and stuff, and they were just talking about Worlds. Because as the casual Pokemon fan, watching Worlds and whatnot, and one of the guests they mentioned they think it'll be Sword and Shield because they've never they can't see a Worlds being played in which players qualified on a different game. I mean, obviously they're a little misinformed on that simply because people are going to be playing in Worlds 2022 having qualified in 2019 on Ultra Sun and Moon still. Yeah. They confirmed that's still happening. So
yeah, guilty on that.
Yeah.
Right here.
But I mean, I don't blame it. That's how our system's always worked. We especially when the games are coming out when they are, you're not gonna not have tournaments in the fall just waiting for the new game, Although it is interesting seeing 35 people Florida regionals blowing up to 600 person Dallas regionals, it happens.
Yeah.
I can't believe we missed the opportunity to make a number one NA joke. It was right there. We all knew it. We were all thinking it, but nobody went for it.
I'll wait for it when the eventual, when I eventually have the man himself on this podcast. It's about time. I'm going to lose enough people on my list, and I'll finally get to them. But
well, Joe, just know there. I mentioned you first.
that is true. So as far as it being a whole year, I guess online, let's jump back to the past, only because probably like 20 minutes before we were meeting here, I realized, oh hey, Champions Cup, that was like a thing a year ago. What was that on about? That was like one of the biggest Pokemon tournaments of all time. Online always helps with those kinds of numbers, but it's been a while, and we've gone through Series 8 now is going to end. I mean, Series 9 is the same as 7, so essentially, how would we sort the early series as format goes? Like 1 and 2 is the format, then 3 and 4 were formats, we'd say. So it's been, we've had like 6 total format / meta games in the past year and a half now. Going back, looking at these teams and stuff, obviously teams look different in all of these meta games. Have you guys had like a favorite meta game yet? Can you like make that decision? I know some of these, like, because we don't have real tournaments, quote unquote, like the meta doesn't evolve enough, or like people don't take as much risk, so a lot of things look samey-ish. Yeah, you know what I mean by that. But so I guess starting with Edu, do you think, like, have you preferred the Nats-Dex formats or like the more restricted ones? Like, well, I guess
I
go
usually,
ahead.
Yeah, I usually do best in formats I don't like. So yeah. Honestly, I've been liking 7 and 8, even though haven't been having my best results. Whereas I absolutely hated Series 6. I think that was the worst we had by a mile.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone says. Yeah,
awful.
Yeah, that was terrible. But I also liked 5. 5 was a bit disappointing for me because I felt like I was really liking it and I could never get the results I got some, but not like I ended up not doing as well in like the last Players Cup qualifier with that format. And I was hoping to do a little better because I generally felt like I had found a team that I really liked that made me enjoy the format. And the first few formats were a bit harder to appreciate as much because we were still getting used to Dynamax. I feel like I had a lot of success because one of my best skills in VGC is being able to adapt really quickly. Things get a lot harder for me as we get much later into a format, but in the beginning I tend to adapt really quickly. So obviously I was enjoying myself because I was getting good results. But I never actually really liked the format that much. It felt very limiting in a few ways, and I mean I was also not. We weren't that used to Dynamax yet, but personally, like, I didn't like them as much. Yeah. Whereas I actually am liking the new ones somewhat. I mean, the Series 8 like lately has been a bit weird for me, but I was liking 7 and a little bit of 8 too.
Well, fortunately, we'll be coming back to 7, which I like. I didn't like their like the way they went about it. It's kind of weird. Like, I would have preferred. I don't actually know if I would have preferred if we just had 3 more months of 7 and now we started 8. Or not. I think I would have liked that better. But then maybe I'd be hating 7 right now, you know? Like, maybe this was like a good break. And then we're coming back to like the core Nats-Dex format, you know? But talking about old teams and whatnot, just looking at Champions Cup, like, back then this was Series 3, and, Conkeldurr, poor guy, I guess Excadrill hasn't seen use probably since like Series 5. Sand's kind of rough in Series 7, right? I'm not misremembering that.
Yeah, because Urshifu dominates 7, so Excadrill really couldn't do much.
Right. And Letters being present too.
Yeah,
for sure. And then, I mean, of course, by then we had Venusaur and Incineroar. Like, Dragapult's always going to have a place here and there. So, I mean, some things are different. A lot remains the same. You were talking about, like, so this was Series 3, but, like, when you played in Australia Series, it was 2 by then.
2, I think,
you were using freaking Gourgeist, man. Like, that's how limited, like, certain roles kind of get truncated. I mean, it's fun to see certain mons like that, but it's always rough because those are the Pokemon with, like, the weirder typings that usually don't work for a reason, or, like, they're lacking in some department. So it's always nice to have the best mons possible for a given role. The Incineroar fallacy really going on there. Even though to this day I'm sure plenty were peeved on why Incineroar was legal, like when it first came in. Just the
oh god, that weekend of North Carolina 18.
That too, with the Intimidate coming in. But I'm talking about
the week up. That's crazy.
I'm talking about like when we found out that Venusaur, like Blastoise, Primarina, Incineroar, and my poor Owl that'll never get used really. They were all coming back simply because they were already coded in the game, and that's why like Terrakion stuff was legal in Series 5. I always found like the reasoning for these Pokemon being legal to be silly, like, but they were nice meta additions, so I wasn't always too upset. Now, is Venusaur now we realize too busted of a mon? Actually, this wasn't even on my repertoire, but we're gonna talk about it now. I've decided because we're leading into Players Cup 3 teams. It's been a hot topic on Twitter recently. What are you guys' thoughts on Volcalith, Wildfire, Vinelash, and whatever the hell Blastoise's move is? Like, is it too good?
It's like, probably.
Like, or is it because they're just on already good mons?
Well, the issue is like things like coal. Like literally, you can just use it as a suicide. Like, okay, I just need to get the rocks up, and then once that's up, that residual damage every single turn for the next couple of turns. That's a lot to deal with. Like sometimes you'll kill a Charizard turn 1. You're in your head. You're playing, and this like 6 turns later, you're all of a sudden, wait, I just took wildfire damage. How long does this last? You're just like, what the hell? Like, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think that with Colossal it's even crazier because rock types have way less of a place in the format than for example water, grass, and fire. So you're always going to have some sort of immunity for the other ones, right? Because grasses are common, water is going to be common, so you have immunities there. But for rock, it's extremely unlikely for you to be running a rock type, especially in Series 8. So you're just going to take the residual no matter what. Yep. And yeah, they do feel it's a lot of damage. And the thing is, like, imagine it creates these kind of mind games where the opponent doesn't even necessarily lose anything, even if they get the call wrong. Like, for example, if you use a grass move into a fire type, right? Because you still get the residual. And it creates a lot of these situations where people just click buttons and they get the win because it turns out that, you have to be extremely oppressive and leads to a more offensive format as well. I feel like the reason why Venusaur is also feels like so prevalent, especially compared to some of the other G Maxes, is because it also is like it has pretty good typing for the format. It's very bulky compared to the others, and it has some insane coverage. I think that's what really sells it, honestly. On top of obviously the sleep, it has so many tools and it's very versatile. And like for example, before in previous formats. Old formats, it's grass and poison. A lot of types resist that. They're not like prime offensive typings, but it has insane coverage with a weather boost. Weather Ball essentially becomes stab, and Earth Power is fantastic coverage.
Oh yeah, people are dropping Sludge Bomb now because obviously Xerneas isn't a thing in Series 8. So why do you need it?
Yeah, fairies are dropping a lot because in general, fairy typing is in a steel heavy meta. You don't see a lot of fairies. Gazashian and a lot of steel types are there, but we'll get there as well. But you see it has insane coverage, insane versatility. It has the damage over time moves on top of having nice coverage, sleep powder, and some decent bulk. It gets pretty crazy. Zardy's a lot more straightforward. It just does damage, and that's it. It's also extremely broken because of the insane damage it does. And Colossal has the insane ability as well, and the whole setup. So, I mean, by itself, like it's not strong enough to carry a Pokemon like Blastoise to a good position, but it's still like a lot of other conditions together with that just make those Pokemon so overwhelming. And the fact that they stay so consistent throughout every single format they've been allowed just shows how good they are.
So I didn't even realize this. Exactly, I think, let me count. Exactly half No, over half. Yeah, over half of the teams that qualify, the top 4 teams that qualified for Players Cup 3 Global Finals all had, like, the G-Max moves. Because there are 4 Cole, and then the rest were all Sun Venusaur teams. Obviously, well, all right, all of NA had it, all of EU had it, half of Latin America had it, and then no one in Oceania seemed to really care about these, but, they do their own thing. But yeah, there's some busted moves. Let's see. So looking at these teams, we'll obviously have provided link below to the Nimpasa City posts with all these teams. Oh yeah, I'm glad I had the idea to have you two on, because usually I would like to have people that were involved in Players Cup. Although Slim, you did, what was it? Was it 17th you got?
Yeah.
In NA.
17th. Yeah.
So you just out of range of being in a potential NDA about the results of these games and whatnot. So glad to have you on board here.
Appreciate it.
But so talking like NA teams, actually, were there any comps that surprised either of you guys in Players Cup 3? I don't really want to say my thoughts on this, because this is the format. The past 2 months I've taken a break from competing seriously, so I don't have as much like competitive intel on it, but it seems like people figured out what was good pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was too difficult, because you start to, like, Grimmsnarl is one of those reasons. Like, it's one of those things, like, it's always been a good mon. It's just that whether people choose to use it or not. And you put something behind screens in a Dynamax format, got double the HP, you can tank anything. And then what's the best thing that came out since Dynamax? Weakness policy.
Yep.
Oh, congratulations. Who gets it? Like, the team really, like, these Sun teams, they cover so much. Usually the only thing you struggle with is the mirror. But in comes Ragav and BR and Adi, and they smash the mirror. So they have a good matchup versus a lot of things.
Yeah, they didn't make it through. They were very close. I think it was Adi and Ragav falling to the Cole teams, and then Cullen losing to the Kyogre Venusaur team. But on the EU side, they weren't running the Grimmsnarl stuff, but they have this, like, I didn't get this team when it was, like, first out. Well, I guess one of the EU teams had Grim over Incineroar, but the double dark Aleki Sun, like, Edu, do you have, like, a little insight on this, having played in that bracket?
Yeah, I was actually knocked out when I was undefeated in the first day, when I was 1 win away from top 16 by Leonardo Bonanomi, who had the exact same team. And
Yep.
Yeah, it felt very impressive, because, I mean, here's the thing. I think it's one of the kind of those teams that it feels very much like a meta call, but with the added effect of actually having some decent matchups across the board.
Mm-hmm.
It has some really tough ones, admittedly, and it has a very specific way of working, and I feel like you have to really know how it works to be able to use it properly.
Right.
But at the same time, it's really oppressive. It's not a team that you're going to be switching around much with necessarily, but, like, I mean, that kind of is covered by the Umbreon, because the Umbreon is really good at, like, helping you time the Dynamax the way you want. And I think that's, like, the big thing about Umbreon there, especially in Sun, when you have those insane Moonlights as well on top of that. But most importantly, having the Yawn and the Snarl to really control the board and allow yourself to bring the Charizard in safely. Because, a lot of things that you'll see with Charizard, it's a Pokemon is, it's very frail. Has a 4 times weakness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not particularly fast, I mean, compared to a lot of things we see right now. So, it's not easy to position. It's very easy to counter with a lead. I'll lead, like, a Line Rush with speed control, a Guard Chomp, and I'll outspeed and destroy you. I'll lead a Thunderous and KO you through Dynamax. So it's very easy to lead against it. But a lot of the things that beat Charizard also lose to Groudon and Venusaur. For example, Thunderous hates Groudon. Venusaur can put Landers to sleep, and if they have a Lumberry, the Vine Lash is always good damage against the Landers, and Umbreon is also pretty good against Landers with a foul play. And Charizard itself can also, like, if you have the speed advantage, which again is helped by Umbreon, because you scare away the speed control with Yawn early on, you're able to just destroy the Landorus with your own Charizard. So you also have that option. And basically, like, Kyogre is very tough for Charizard too when you have Sun with Groudon and you have Venusaur that doesn't mind Kyogre at all. So, they have that kind of synergy, and that is helped by the Umbreon to help you position the Dynamax the way you want. I think that's kind of like how the team works. I feel like there are some tough matchups that he really struggles with, particularly like I don't love how it handles Calyrex Ice, and I feel like that's the big place for Calyrex Ice. It's handling Sun. Because a lot of Sun teams do struggle against it, especially if it's properly supported, like a team that we saw with Alec Rubin. Because you might think, Sun, full of fire types, but Calyrex Ice is a Pokemon that is a very bulky Pokemon, but he's played like hyper offense. Because you have a lot of weaknesses, but you hit extremely hard and you KO a lot of the things that KO you. For example, just an insane calc that we actually have been seeing a lot of in NPA is that a +2 Calyrex Ice has a chance to OHKO Charizard without Dynamax. Like the Charizard is Dynamaxed, but the Calyrex isn't. Like the spread Glacial Lens that gets reduced by spread reduction has a chance to OHKO Charizard, which means that if the Charizard is not Dynamaxed, you're neutral, you can just kill the Zard. It came up once we had a Calyrex at +4, and the Zard was in Reflect, and the Zard Dynamaxed and got OHKO'd. Which didn't really matter because we doubled into it, but it does a ton of damage. That's the problem, because your fire type, you can run multiple fire types, you can run Incineroar as well, but, one of them doesn't resist ice, and the other is weak to ground. So, and can do, and more important than being weak to ground, is being not doing a lot of damage back to Calyrex, because it has very high defense, and Incineroar cannot really be built offensively. In this format, since you need to the role of Incineroar is not to deal damage, it's to tank damage.
Right.
So you would just end seeing Calyrex not minding Incineroar too much. So the way I found to handle Calyrex Ice matchups, and the reason why my team could beat Calyrex Ice very consistently, was a bulkier steel type that could Dynamax and also not mind Dusclops too much, and that was the Celesteela. I could lead seed Dusclops. And even if they try to haze to disrupt me, disrupt my defense boosts, my intimidates, every time they haze, they're losing HP with a leech seed, they're giving me HP, and I'm always doing decent damage to Calyrex without being worried about being hit with super effective damage. So, when Hailstorm, even at neutral, is going to do, and even if Life Orb is not going to tweet KO me, and Quake I'm immune to. So I think that was a really nice deck. And that is kind of the problem with Sun. You either kind of give up on your Calyrex Ice matchup, or you run something oddly specific that only functions there, which is the Celesteela. Celesteela has a tough time in this format in general, because it's not good against a lot of Sun teams. There's a lot of Regieleki running around. Thundurus is super tough. So it's not a Pokemon you can bring to a lot of matchups. A lot of the restrictors also don't mind Celesteela at all. Calyrex Ghost just overwhelms it. Groudon can be a bit awkward if you don't have Fire Punch, but usually Groudon is paired with stuff like Charizard, Venusaur. So you it's not like Celesteela is that big of a problem. And then you also have Kyogre can overwhelm it. So as I was saying, like basically every restricted that isn't Calyrex Ice doesn't really mind Celesteela, so it ends up being a very hard Pokemon to bring in general. So it kind of feels like I am too limited with the rest of the team. I need the other 5 Pokemon to do everything else. Whereas other Sun teams just give up on the Calyrex Ice matchup to make sure they have something useful for the others, and I feel like that's the kind of the big issue with Sun teams nowadays. And Umbreon is kind of a nice mid ground. It's not like it solves Calyrex Ice by any means, but it's really good against it, especially if you make it physically bulky. You can take a few hits, foul play, and capitalize on their own boosts off of Chilling Neigh or weakness policies. And then do extra damage. You have Yawn to disrupt their setup. So, you do have a lot of options with Umbreon. It's not like it's a perfect check. You still take a ton of damage from it. And if, they're +2 and they're going to Hailstorm you, you're not going to live that. But it's a nice mid-ground to have. And I think that was a very interesting take on it. And I think that's a big reason why Umbreon's there. It's a Pokemon that handles Calyrex Ice while still being useful in other matchups. And yeah, we basically also saw it. The teams that made it were the two of them were the Groudon, the Sun Groudon with Charizard, like Umbreon. But we also saw the Colossal. Now I didn't face that kind of Colossal, but we've seen Colossal having a lot of success because yeah, it's just really good at capitalizing on Sun. First of all, like the Sun trend is nice for it. Because you know, you're boosting it basically. You're giving it already like you know, if you have Sun, you don't have a water type probably, and if you do, well, you're reducing its own damage. And Colossal likes to be in Sun because you gets boosted flares and does takes less damage from water. And it's really good. It hits a lot of the teams for super effective damage, so that's super nice as well.
On the flip side, the Sun team, it runs 3 max Quake potential mons, right?
Yeah. It's a very chaotic matchup for sure. But yeah, I think another big thing is that like Colossal is really good against a lot of Zacian team. You know, it just outspeeds Anoko Zacian.
Yep.
And a lot of the common Zacian partners are also beaten by Colossal. And another big factor that I like to mention every time is that you know, Colossal struggled with one thing before, which was you usually had to choose between a fairy or a steel, or neither. Well, it could just go with neither. But you couldn't really have room for both, and both types are really nice to have, especially defensively. If you don't want to go straight up for offense, it's nice to have that option. And Zacian just fits in perfectly because on top of that,
I mean, it's barely a fairy type, to be fair. It's a fairy type in name only.
It's important for the defense because it's a dark resist, and that's
right.
Against Urshifu, Velto, Moltres, stuff like that, and that's why it's also important. The thing is, you know, sometimes you don't have a lot of room for your dark resist. Is going to be Urshifu, and Urshifu is not really switching into much. But having that extra option can be really nice. And you just usually don't have room for it. We saw. You know, Santi had Kiss, so opted out of the Steel type, and Wolf just didn't have Steel or Fairy. He just opted for a more offensive approach or more matchup specific approach for the problematic Pokemon. And if with Zacian, it not only has that defensive, you know, gain, but it fits it perfectly into the theme of the team, which is deal early damage with the Colossal and pick up just sweep later on with what you have. Usually you have like the Urshifu and the Rillaboom, fantastic post Dynamax Pokemon that just sweep very easily to their you know, insane power and speed. Well, Rillaboom is not very fast, but it has the priority, and Urshifu is sitting in a nice enough speed tier, and he can just ignore damage reduction. So by just creating, so you know, they end up being fantastic sweepers, and that's the theme of the team, right? You deal chip damage or get a KO or two if possible, but mostly just deal damage with Volcalith and sweep in the end with something. And Zacian fits into that style perfectly. It's just what the team wants. So you're telling me that you're adding defensive capabilities that the team did not have access to before, on top of fitting the theme of the team perfectly. I mean, it's just too perfect to be true, and that's why we're seeing so much Zacian Colossal, I feel.
Now, Slim, just to touch into, so did you run the I'm forgetting your sticks at the time. You had the Umbreon Incineroar Sun team as well?
It was the Umbreon Lucky version, yeah.
Okay. So can you, like, collaborate what Edu is essentially saying about the team? Like, where...
No, he's spot on. Because, like, for me, that was the one thing I had a problem with, so that's why Umbreon was there. It's a good mid-ground where I can make sure, not only can I bring this against other teams to support, but I can make sure I can hard check any switch-ins you have into this offense if you try to Trick Room and go into Calyrex Eyes. So I made it I put it in a position where I'm like, okay, you have to play around this. You have to kill it. Because if I get a read right on you switching out these mons while you're taking precipice damage, you're going to get KO'd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Also, before I move on, just one thing. I think one very surprising thing about how this format developed is that in the first ever major we had of the Joey UX9 tour, we had absolutely no Groudon in cut.
Yeah, actually, so I you guys probably noticed I put in our chat a week one restricted mon tier list. This shit ain't what we seeing right now. That's for sure.
I used to stick up for that little golden rainbow bird.
Yeah, you had Ho-Oh and S tier, my guy.
Dude, at first it was really good, but like then playing with it and it's on its own, I'm like, oh, it needs a partner.
Yeah,
I can't have a team full of supporters to keep you alive. Like, oh, it's
so I only put this here. I don't want to mention through the tier list. I guess like Rip to even Dialga has died down, and Xerneas like B tier is like generous to it.
That's very generous.
But what happened to Kyogre? It like I know we're only seeing the top 4 teams that qualified, so I'm sure there are plenty of Kyogre, but like why is Kyogre not the kind of comp that these players are picking, or even like spearheading their way to top 4? There was 2, right? And one of them was even on a Sun team itself. Actually, no, there wasn't even 2. It was the only one.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only one.
Kyogre just feels not flexible.
Yeah,
like it's
agree.
not flexible. You have to have it with certain mons, or it cannot do its job because it doesn't want to Dynamax. There's just no flexibility there. Like if you know one Kyogre team, you pretty much know them all. Somebody will throw in some random mon, you'll be like, well, it's not better than that mon, so what's the point? And you just know what to do.
Yeah, it's definitely like a way too straightforward in the way it works. And too limited. Like the thing about Groudon is that even if you don't have the weather advantage, you're still doing your damage. You really don't care. Sometimes Groudon even prefers to be in like sand because you don't get like the opposing fire types don't even get the extra boost on you. So I mean, sometimes it's even better, and they get chipped and you don't. I mean, fantastic. Whereas Kyogre just always wants to be in rain. I mean, Hail and Sand are not the end of the world, but he becomes a whole other Pokemon. And having that need makes it so that the team ends up being very supported around placing the Kyogre right, like having the right positioning and basically you need to have the right techs and the right build to play it, and it's very easy to counter. So it's the kind of Kyogre is the kind of Pokemon that you'll see like it comes up at some point of the meta with a specific way that people don't really know how to handle, and then once people realize how to beat that, it'll fall down and other variants of Kyogre will show up. And this like double weather version caught everyone by surprise because it was completely different from what you're used to. We're used to, Kartana because it pairs fantastically with Kyogre from a both defensive and offensive standpoint. Then Torn because it's just brilliant support next to Kyogre. Incineroar because it beats a lot of the grass types as Intimidate to help with Kyogre's weakest defense stat. And then you saw like Lecky for extra speed control, Amoonguss for the redirection, and you didn't see much variation from there. And it's very easy to check to cover all that because, well, first of all, you're basing your team like the fact that Kyogre has like only one type is already a limitation. Okay, Groudon has the same issue, but the thing with Kyogre is that like you're pairing it with a Tornadus, not like Groudon. Groudon is being paired with a Grass Poison with a lot of coverage. Kyogre is being supported by a one move mod. It's a Hurricaning mod. That's all the only move you run. So just on those 2 Pokemon, you have almost no coverage. And if you're trying to cover every matchup in the format, which like 2 of your team slots already have like basically no gain in terms of coverage, you're going to be very, very limited for the rest. And then you're going to have like double grass many times. You're going to have an Incineroar that is not really doing damage. Next thing you know, we have like 2 Dynamax targets. The rest is support. And it's very easy to counter that. Like, for example, I was destroying every Tornogre with my Cobra Berry Venusaur in Sun because Weather Ball destroys Kartana. I destroy Kyogre with Venusaur. Incineroar is too frail. I have Cobra Berry to handle the Torn, and Torn is so frail itself that I just chip it and wait for my Venusaur to be in the right position. Or with Divine Lash plus a little bit of chip from like an Incineroar or a Feeny is enough to take care of the Torn, and they no longer have anything for the Venu. So I was having like the Cobra Berry Venusaur with Weather Ball completely destroyed that earlier version of Kyogre. And then you started seeing other versions. I started seeing the double weather that took everyone by surprise, despite objectively like not having the best matchups against certain things. Like for example, the original Yanagi double weather team that had Kyogre Tornadus, but then Torkoal, Venusaur, Urshifu, and Porygon 2, it has a lot of trouble against stuff like Umbreon. The team has 5 special mons, and the only one Pokemon that breaks it is an Urshifu that is very frail, very vulnerable to a lot of the Pokemon in the format. So it was very hard to beat stuff like Umbreon, or in general, just like, Snarl spam, anything that just had, if they had Snarl, certain matchups felt really tough to beat. But that's the thing. If you don't know about the team, you're probably not going to be like, as long as Umbreon is not like big, or as long as, any specific tags aren't big, or anything, any matchup they're tough, they have trouble with. That team is gonna beat everyone, because they don't know how it works even. Like, it looks so odd, Torkoal and Kyogre are on the same team. My own interpretation personally is that the team ends up being very much a Venusaur team. You try, because Venusaur loves sun, but also loves rain. You protect yourself from fire moves. You have a fantastic rain boosted weather ball to hit a lot of Pokemon that could give you trouble, like Rotom Heat, like Incineroar, like Landorus. So you love rain too, but you also obviously love sun, because it allows you to beat steel types with your weather ball to get the speed advantage. Just you have a lot of gain in both weathers. And in general, it really helps Venusaur, be in the right positions to do its job. And I think people weren't really like even focusing on the Venusaur. They think, Venusaur is the Torkoal mode. I don't think it really combos with Kyogre, and then it comboed with Kyogre with even Torn. You can boost Torn with your oozes. You can boost the Porygon as well. Like, it has so much flexibility that you're not expecting, and it took a lot of people by surprise. But it stopped working. We saw Yanagi having a lot of trouble in the Victory Road tournament, being eliminated in the first round. We don't see that team working out anymore, and instead we see a variation that has two physical attackers instead of only one, and one of them is a big Dynamax target too. So yeah, Jonathan Evans ended up doing just that with the team that actually my friend NJ built and shared with him.
He got what was it, top 16 in NA?
He got top 16.
Yep.
So yeah, the Metagross deck is fantastic because it gives you the team a lot of things it doesn't have. For example, first of all, a Steel type. Second, a physical Dynamax. And on top of that, the Grimmsnarl also fits into everything perfectly because the team felt very offensive sometimes in the way they approaches certain matchups. But you kind of wanted some defensive backbone to allow you to not have to play perfectly or make every read right. More importantly than playing perfectly, getting reads right. You can find middle grounds by having screen support. And that's like where Grimmsnarl enters. It also helps a lot against stuff like Umbreon because you get like a strong Spirit Break onto Umbreon to do some damage without like being a very frail Pokemon either. So it also helps with that. And just having two physical Pokemon makes it's basically double the amount of physical Pokemon. So it makes special walls and Snarl spam a lot easier to handle.
I mean, I would barely count Grimmsnarl as like an offensive pressure, but that is fair. Spirit Break is there. It covers plenty. You're right. So, well, unfortunately, I don't know when the stream is. I guess that'll be in information, and I'll have in descriptions and stuff. But they are playing the global finals this weekend. But us three will also be playing Series 8 this weekend because they also have players for qualifier already. It's like technically like a month earlier than the previous two because or previous 3 Players Cup now because each Players Cup, what was it? Did it take like 4 months or whatever? Because May qualifier, a month of nothing for no reason whatsoever. June Players Cup finals in August. All the first 3 were like 4 months, and then they're like, you know what? That is a little ridiculous. But even more ridiculous is the fact that it's the same weekend that they're playing global finals, and from my understanding, that everyone in global finals is still expected to be, playing in the PC4 qualifiers this weekend too.
That is absolutely nuts.
I guess they could just use the same damn team, but yikes.
Why are you putting them through that?
I would hope the smart thing, I doubt they'll do this, is that they would just automatically give them invites. It makes sense. If you qualified for the global finals of the previous Players Cup, just give them automatic qualification for the next Players Cup, right?
Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially since later on, the prizes and stuff. The prizes, we'll get to that too. Hasn't been the best. Like, it made sense when we thought Players Cup 1 was the only Players Cup. It's like, oh yeah, like COVID's not going to be that bad, so the prize, top 4 of you guys, will send you to an internet whenever that's going to happen. Like, certainly that's going to expire eventually for these guys. I am curious which internets all of them will choose to go to. Will be interesting to see them in the future. But in bigger news, they announced, seemingly listening to the players, that Players Cup 4 will no longer have that silly prize structure. And in fact, all 16 players who qualify for the global finals will now be eligible for cash prizing, with the winner getting a sick 5K. And if you guys want to see the full prize structure, you can see the additional rules on the it'll be included in the official Pokemon website links below. But other than that, they also announced that the first week of the qualifier will be Swiss now. You guys are pumped up about that, right? I can't be the only one who is sick of waiting through double elimination brackets.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
just the amount of time between some of these games, it is absolutely it's like torture.
Yeah, so it in theory, your games are always happening in double elimination. Yes. But not the amount of time that a given player can wait can be much longer than in Swiss.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I actually felt this very, very first person this time. I usually actually get down to losers brackets very early. First Players Cup just happened. I had a really good match against a solid opponent, and then the second Players Cup I actually overslept, so I got knocked out into losers extremely early. I never actually had to wait that much, but this time I made it to I got the first 4 rounds. So I had to wait, and then I lost, right? So then I had to wait 3 hours on my birthday for the next game, only to lose to Charizard again. And it was it was not fun. But I think the most frustrating part, honestly, is just how double elimination in general works with VGC. Pokemon in general, usually we've established that X2 tends to be the best cut for big tournaments because, well, first of all, you're definitely we're trying to assess the level of players, right? We're trying to assess your quality, and if so, ideally the best player wins, the second best player gets second, third best player gets third, etc., etc. So basically, imagine the third. I mean, if you want a top cut, let's imagine a top cut of top 16, right? So let's imagine the 15th best person in the entire tournament faces the best person in Swiss. Mm-hmm. It's logical for them to lose, so there's one loss. But it's unlikely for that same person to face anyone better than them. If they do, well, we reduce the odds by allowing 2 losses. But the game is also very luck based. So you could also just happen to get very unlucky against the worst player. So let's imagine you lost to a better player and you got unlucky once. That's 2 losses, but you're still among the 16 best players in the tournament, so you should still at least move on to that part, right? That's the whole point. Maybe sure, you're not the best, so maybe you weren't gonna win anyway. If we look at the skill level, that's not how Pokemon works anyway. He was just imagining the ideal situation where Pokemon is extremely skill based and no luck involved.
Right.
Even if that was the case, it should be allowed at least 1 or 2 losses in case you face someone better, because we're trying to understand the levels of the players, right? We're trying to make it correspond or match with the result with the level of the player. But on top of that, there's a luck factor, so we always felt that 2 losses were more than fair. And the truth is that now we're only allowed 1.
Yeah.
And it makes things very complicated, because if you face someone better than you, but also someone, again, lucky, well, you're out. And that feels very unfair, because, it can even be the best player in the tournament. If they get unlucky twice, that's enough to be knocked out. And although that's less likely when it comes to, a long winner's run, because you play a lot less games, so the odds of actually getting lucky in such few games are a lot lower, you could like get unlucky very early, and then you have to play like 10 games to make it through, and the odds that you don't get unlucky again is just so low.
Yep.
That it just doesn't feel fair. Double elimination, and I think that really shows because like not a lot of like we've had a lot of top players play in these tournaments, all right, and not always the top players make it. Not like actually most of the time, the players that have top cut worlds that are playing the tournament don't make it next phase.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually extremely common lately for the players that make it through. At least half of them are really not that had not been successful in the past. So I think that kind of speaks of the level of the tournament. Like not saying that they don't deserve to be there.
Right.
I'm just saying that it kind of shows that the fact that so many top players fail that this is not just theory. I'm not just.
Yeah, so it's
saying
like
that...
an issue with the seeding. Like the best of one qualifier in general is rough, especially when so many people. It's based off of seeding on how you did in the qualifier, but people are just playing the qualifier. Like, we're not playing to get the highest seed because of how arduous the qualifier itself is. So I'm so thankful. I follow plenty of like other esports, a lot of fighting games, Smash specifically in the past. I know I've talked with some people how they'll have like even round robin or Swiss pools for like day one of like a 3-day tournament. This is essentially what this is now, because I don't know if they're recognizing this specifically, but this is a way to kind of like reseed people in a way, and actually like the seeding going into the region finals the second week of the tournament. Actually, I'm realizing this now. It's no longer the second week in the tournament. There's like a big stretch between them. Like June 19th is the Swiss rounds, and July 3rd is the region finals. I do like that. I'm curious if we'll be stuck to the same team between those two. Maybe not. We'll need more info after the qualifier, but that'll be interesting. I don't know if that information exists or not. You can find out through the extensive rules document. But regardless of the fact, I'm really glad to see this being in place because what is it? Going through, 2 losses is tough. Even throwing back to, we had this with Champions Cup. We were talking about that earlier last year. That was an X1 cut tournament because of how they decided to run it, and it was such a big deal. I win X2. I felt like I did really good in the tournament. I didn't cut. So,
Yeah, no, that also didn't feel right at the time. I mean, it was what they. I mean,
yeah, it's what under like the timing and like the structure, they didn't realize the tournament was going to be that big of a hit. They should have known, like they were going to cap it and stuff. But
I think people like they of course they were heard about it, but at the time they needed something so much that they were willing to like, you know what, it's fine, it's worth it.
Yeah, it was a tournament, like, just the fact that they got this out there, like, a month after, like, it was what the people needed. I was very thankful for that tournament to happen, but, you know, you're a Slim, you're a TO yourself, you got a tournament going this weekend that everyone should enter, you know, of course, if you can have the time, Rose Tower, but it's understandable why these things happen.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no perfect tournament structure, simply because time limitations exist, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tournament structure is like the most hardest thing to kind of pin down because like there's so many different changes, especially with the boom and the online thing. So the formats change so much. You're trying to make sure, okay, like where should we stay? Where should we try to make something new and invigorating or something like that? Like it's hard to always figure out.
I'm trying to think. I think we harped on everything I'm going to talk about other than, I guess, you don't have to reveal what you're entering with. By all means, we're probably all playing Sun this weekend. Let's be real. But Series 8 is in a rough spot because no one's going to care about Series 8 after this tournament because we already know the format for the what this tournament's qualifying for, even though it's not for... Wait, I'm just now realizing this qualifiers for a tournament that's in 2 months. And we still have a month of Series 8, and then it would be 2 weeks of Series 9, which is your Series 7 played. Jeez, okay. Well, I'll think about that next time, but jeez, okay. So is Series 8 just like dead after this, or like is it up to us online TOs? Like I know I only run a tournament every 3 months, so I'm not doing another Series 8 tournament. But like, will people keep Series 8 alive? Like, was it worth it? Will you guys continue playing Series 8 after the qualifier this weekend?
Probably not.
Okay,
but
keeping it
I mean,
real.
I'll still run the tours, like of course, because we're gonna follow whenever the format switch is over. So I'll run 8 until once we officially move over, then we'll start doing Series 7, aka Series 9.
Yeah.
But playing wise, I'll be pretty much done after this weekend. All right, I'll just sit back.
Actually, Edu, a different question for you to answer, because I basically know your answer to that one. But as a fellow NPA manager, we haven't talked about NPA much on this cast. But do you want to play Series 7 a week earlier just so people can, play the format for the only like official tournament a bit earlier so we can prep for that? Because Series 8 ends, what is that, May 1st? And that's like, that's a while, man.
Yeah. I think this thing is like, I mean, we still have online tournaments with that format. It's still the official format. So,
yeah.
I mean, I personally, it's whatever people prefer.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out what the people want.
Yeah, usually with me, it's just like, if it's Pokemon, I'll play, as much as I don't like it, you'll find me playing.
Yeah,
but
I've been there.
It's just that, I mean, I'm not the one playing from a manager's standpoint. Like, I mean, I could try to get my own,
right.
Maybe I have more players that are better in Series 8, or maybe I have players that are better in Series 9.
Oh, that's a whole different thought. Yeah. I'm totally biased for that as the former last team in the league, but
So yeah, I just I don't know. It's from a manager standpoint, I just don't, it doesn't really affect me. So I'd have to ask all my players to see what they prefer. But in general, I mean, if the format's still going, if there's still online tournaments under that format, then I guess we can still stick to it. I'm probably gonna stick to it if I join like more tournaments.
Yeah, maybe some organization, Rose Tower, VR, whatever. People, they're fortunately we've gotten a lot of online TOs through the year, so we're thankful to all of them. But maybe there's like a send-off tour, and that's what will keep people playing Series 8. Who knows what Series 10 will be? Because with the time frame, we're still gonna probably have Series 10 before the remakes come out. Maybe even another series. I forget the math. I think it was only Series 10.
I don't even know where you go from here. That's the funny part.
GS Cup, probably?
Yeah, we've got
why would you go
two restricted? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. They put themselves in a weird predicament. But
screw it, just make it 6 restricted at this point. Like,
dude, I wanted to play Little Cup VGC. Just mix it all up. Like, that would be fun. Just, for maybe not 3 months now that the series are 3 months, but like I would have been okay with like 2 months of Little Cup or something. Like on the down low.
There's some people out there that want to play Mythical, but we all know it's Magirna and that's it.
Oh, no.
No,
let's not do that.
No.
Let's not do that.
No.
We'll leave that behind closed doors as usual.
Yeah, we know about that. Okay. I think we got everything. So you guys want to shout out where people can find you and whatnot?
For me, you just find me on Twitter, BigSlim World, no vowels or anything, and same thing on Twitch. And of course, Rose Tower and Mount Silver is normally where I'm at. Rose points are given out on Mount Silver weeklies now, Tuesdays and Thursdays on Showdown. So if you want to come start getting some points now, if you can't play this weekend, by all means. And for those of y'all who are playing this weekend, I'll see you on Saturday.
You heard it.
I know you can find me on Twitch, EduCPT. I'll be playing the the Players Cup for qualifier, and I'm still not sure if I'm playing the Rose Tower tournament because it's a lot of stuff. But knowing myself, I'm probably gonna end up signing up anyway. And you can find me as well on every Wednesday and Friday, as well as weekends, streaming over there as well. You can find me on Twitter at Menino Jardim. I know that one's a bit hard to find, but look up for Edu. You'll probably
I've got all the people will be able to find you. I've links helping out. Self plug. I haven't streamed in ages, but I am semi on retiring streaming to stream this qualifier. I always stream tournaments I'm in. That was my MO when I started way back when Sword and Shield came out. So hopefully I'll have this episode airing out Thursday. If I can edit it sometime tomorrow. We're recording this Wednesday, of course. So I should be live. But that's it from me, of course. Thanks so much for joining me, guys, today. Next episode. No problem. Next episode, probably like a Series 8 send-off. You know what? Next month, like, yeah, because I'm just so baffled that the Players Cup 4 qualifiers this weekend we're playing mid-June. So, something content-wise, I'm sure will be announced for me to talk about in May. Until next time, I've been Cable, signing out. Peace.